You're going to love this video. We're talking about human anatomy and watch fit. Why a given size watch might be comfortable to your wrist and why another might not. Let's take a look together at some human anatomy, shall we? Okay, now, this is a skeleton. This is the hand and that's the thumb. There are two bones that are very important. The radius, which is the one up here, and the ulna, which is the one there. This is the section of the skeletal structure that we're interested in right there. And this little bump right here, that's a protuberance at the end of the ulna. Now, interesting thing. Because there's bone here, if you take and squeeze with your fingers, you'll feel that you can take pokes in the center pretty well. There's a lot of muscle tissue, but on the sides here, right there, this point and that point, it's quite sensitive to pressure. Actually, if you take your thumb and just press it in, within just a few seconds, you can really get it sore. So this is a hot spot right here on your wrist, and this is a hot spot. Okay, how does that relate to the comfort of a watch? Okay, if a watch has a bump on the bottom, like this scheme, and that bump happens to ride right between the radius and the ulna, and it does not extend far enough to hit this protuberance at the end of the ulna, it will be pretty comfortable. But if your watch, like this, is quite long between the end of the lug and the end of the lug, then what can happen is it will create two hot spots on your wrist. It might create a hot spot here, and it might create a hot spot here. What can you do? You can put on a NATO band, which will lift up the watch because there's two layers of leather under here, or whatever the material is for a NATO band, and it will raise up the watch, lift it in such a way where it can reduce any discomfort. Now then you have overhang problems, where if a watch is just a little bit too big for you, it may actually, there won't be any curvature to the band around your wrist anymore. It will be a straight side down on this side. And this is not so easy for me to show you. I'll try to do it this way. Okay, this would be the curve around the wrist, but if it's too large, then you kind of have a straight down. So there'd be a gap here, and then it's straight down. Now, that doesn't mean that that is a misfit watch. It might be. It would depend how it hit the radius and the ulna. And if you could tolerate an end of a watch coming down straight like that, okay? Most people try to fit a watch like this one, such that on the wrist it lies comfortably. This line here and that edge there ride comfortably on the radius and ulna, and between them such that there's still curvature of the band on both sides, which means it's not too big. This is a properly fit, correct size watch. Now, if it were a little bit too big, then on the one side you would see this, kind of that line like that. That doesn't necessarily mean it would be an uncomfortable watch. It just means it would look a little funky, where the side would be straight down instead of curved. So this is a correctly fit watch. What about another one? This is a metal band watch. Okay, and in this case, you'll see again, the end of the lug is not way out here, but is over here. This is here, and it really is a correctly fit watch. Now, what would happen if it were a little bit too big? Then you would get that effect again on each side, where there's a straight line on this part of the band, not curved like that, but more of a straight. It doesn't mean it's a wrong fit. It might be okay if you can tolerate the look and it doesn't hurt you. Now, let me give you a watch that's been very hard to get a decent fit on, which is this Scheme, which originally, you can see, had this raised back area I hammered down. But those two lines, here and here, happen to catch the inside of the radius and the ulna, creating pain. So I smacked down the back, took it off, and hit it with a hammer and got rid of those bumps, because it was creating pain. So what have we learned? Let's go over it. If you have pain on your wrist from a watch, it's probably catching the radius or the ulna right around there. Let's come up. It might be hitting here. It might be hitting over there. You might say, well, does that mean I'm screwed? No, it means you're going to have to look at some other types of bands to help you out, principally a NATO band, to try and lift it up just a little bit. That can help quite a bit. You also could actually put a layer of something on the back of the watch to raise it up even higher, but you'd want to get it up such that the center of your arm, not the ends here, but the center, was taking the pressure of the watch. And what is a correctly fit watch? A correctly fit watch would be one where the watch sits between the radius and the ulna in a comfortable way. Now you're starting to see why I like that Scheme Digital so much. It's a small enough shape where it easily fits in that area between the radius and the ulna. And yet, this is a correctly fit watch too. This was a correctly fit watch. This watch was the toughest one. It didn't work with a standard band, but it certainly does with NATO, because it's a little bit too big for my wrist. It didn't create straight down overhang, but it was hitting in some places that it wasn't real comfortable. Now we get into the problem of buying stuff online because you can't try it on. Now you can return it, but that's not so easy to AliExpress. So that's where those vernier calipers come in, where people are like, oh, I'm going to measure. And then what do they measure? Well, to get the size of the radius, or, the diameter across the face of the watch, they'll measure from one side to the next, and this one is showing at exactly 40 millimeters. Okay, then they're going to do a measurement from the end of a lug to the end of the lug. So a 40 watch, the lugs are going to be more like 48, 49. So the lugs extend out the watch quite a bit, you know. So that's what that measurement is about. The other measurement people take is they'll oftentimes measure the fatness of a watch. This particular one is 13 millimeters. But the thickness of a watch won't necessarily affect whether it's comfortable on your wrist. It's only going to control how much it sticks up, which is only a problem probably if you're wearing a shirt where you have to get it under a cuff or something like that. But so again, this was a discussion about human anatomy and the correct fitting of a watch. So you know that you want to keep in mind whether the watch you're getting is going to fit comfortably between your radius and your ulna. And you do want to be careful that it does not catch this, which is that bump right there on the ulna. And the larger the watch, the more of a chance that's going to be a problem. That's true. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this discussion of human anatomy and the correct fitting of a watch. You can probably make any watch comfortable if you're willing to fiddle with various types of bands and maybe consider a NATO strap for a watch that's just a little bit too big for you. Okay? See ya.